Hey there, today we're going to discuss the topic of juvenile arthritis and whether or not it's hereditary and what exactly does it mean if one of our family members on either side does just so happen to have arthritis. Is that why my child has arthritis? Is there any hope for my child who has arthritis if it is genetic or hereditary? Well, we're going to get into that today. And hopefully I will be able to answer all of your questions so that way you feel empowered and knowledgeable while you are on this road to reversing your child's juvenile arthritis naturally and completely. Before we get into it, I am Star Penn. I am the Leaky Gut Coach, and I am the founder and creator of the JIA Blueprint, where I help moms to reverse their children's juvenile arthritis, to remove their fear, their anxiety, the confusion, overwhelm, everything that comes along with this diagnosis, so that you can enjoy your life now, enjoy your family, this precious time that you have with them, and ultimately ensure that your JIA kid will have a healthy, normal, and happy future. So let's get into this question. Is my child's juvenile arthritis hereditary? Well, the simple answer to that question is no. And it kind of has to do with the question being a little bit funny. But no, it's not hereditary, right? Because something that's hereditary is something that there's a percent of a chance that someone in your family will get it, like eye color, body type, hair color, shape of teeth, shape of nose, these things. These are hereditary factors that get passed on from generation to generation. And it's a mix of things that, some people get these traits, some people get these traits. There's really no deviating from that. This is the material that we're working with. Now, what I will say, though, and we'll explain the difference, is your child's juvenile arthritis could be genetic. That's weird, right? What's the difference there? Well, our genetic code has all sorts of markers for all sorts of things that we have going on in our body. And the way that let's just go to our mother, whatever condition her body was in when she had us, that's what we got. That's what we have to work with. But does that mean if mom has a certain illness that there's a 50-50, 25% chance that we'll get it and continue it down to our children? Does that mean that there's a chance? Is it in the same dice as these other traits that we'll get it? And the simple answer there is no. It's genetic. That means that we are, when we're born, what our family, what our parents have going on and what we have going on, that ultimately is the gun, or I don't want to say the pew-pew, right? That's loaded that we give to our offspring. But whether or not that goes off and becomes an illness for them has everything to do with our lifestyle. So just because we were handed something doesn't mean at all that we're going to develop it. Turning on those autoimmune triggers has everything to do with the way our body is operating, if it's at optimum, if there's infections, if there's a leaky gut, if there's detox issues. These are the kind of things that will trigger that response in our body and cause us to develop maybe an illness that other people in our family have. But it's not because we are powerless to it. Different than our eye color, right? I have no control over my eye color. I can't change it no matter what I do. I have no power over what color eyes my children have. No matter what I do, those are the hereditary things that get passed down. The genetic things that get passed down. What epigenetic science is finding, this DNA strand, is that these markers inside the DNA code that we have are completely manipulatable. We have all the power to turn them on, to turn them off, to calm them down, to wake them up. It is in our power to control these genetic conditions that have been handed down to us. And that's great news. That is amazing news. And so this is the study of epigenetics. It's a newer study, less than 50 years old, but by all means, look into it if you haven't, because this holds out so much hope for us and our JIA kids, because now the power is in our hand. We can change this. So let's talk about it a little bit. Let's talk about what's going on in the body and visualize what's going on so we can realize really the power that we do have to change what's going on. Okay, so let's say that our child has been given somehow, your mom, your husband's dad, a strand of DNA where one of them have arthritis. Let's say that's the case. But in many cases, that's not the case at all. In many families, there's no arthritis anywhere. How the heck did my kids get this? So there has to be another underlying issue, right? We have the genetic component where, maybe my child was born with this DNA strand where one of the little markers says, there's some arthritis down here, but it's benign. It's not doing anything. It's just there. And some people, they don't have it, but yet they still develop juvenile arthritis. So what triggered it? That's really where we need to be looking, because it doesn't matter if it's there, if it's turned off, and it really doesn't matter if it's not there and you got JIA anyway. So what triggered it? And so that's where we want to go and look deeper into the body. And what we're seeing now, we're seeing autoimmunity at epidemic levels right now. Never in history have so many children been sick with various autoimmune issues, cancers, neurological and behavioral issues. All of these things are connected. Something is going on. Come to our generation, maybe we started developing these things in our 20s or 30s, or maybe even just now. Go back to our parents' generation. They didn't start developing things like this until they were in their 60s and 70s, right? That's why we think a lot of these things are like an old person's illness, right? And then you go back, if any of us know your great-grandparents, and this was not a thing. It did not exist. I want you to know that. It was not a thing. So what's the common denominator here? Well, what we really want to look at, and we can't get too deep into it for just for the sake of keeping this video somewhat on topic, but we have to look at the root issue, which is our gut. I'm the leaky gut coach. Okay. And there's been a lot of talk about leaky gut lately, which I think is wonderful. It's phenomenal because it's bringing awareness to something that 10 years ago, many doctors and many people thought was a ridiculous sounding thing and probably not real. So it's good. But then it's also not that great too, because it kind of waters it down. And you think, oh yeah, leaky gut, like it's not a big deal. But I want to talk to you about what's going on in the body when a gut becomes leaky and permeable, and how this leads to juvenile arthritis. So when our children are born, they're born into a world that is much more toxic, number one, than the world that we were born into. What we pass down to our kids from our bodies, our own immune system, our biodiversity of probiotic in our own guts, what they have to even start with is nothing compared to what we had and to what our parents had. So they're getting not a great start. They're getting a lot of times, right when they're born, they're getting loaded up with a whole bunch of stuff, killing the bacteria in their gut so much more than we ever had. And even just the foods that we have, you might have noticed some of these things, they don't even taste the same way they used to. Just more and more chemicals, more and more plastics, more and more, the water is more contaminated, the air is more contaminated. We have more environmental toxins in our house. We have all these laundry detergents that smell like really strong, and hand sanitizers and lotions, and the fragrances, and all these things break down they disrupt our hormones, which affect our gut microbiome, which break down the good bacteria in our gut. And why that is important and why I want you to know this is that we can understand how this really started, because good bacteria, beneficial bacteria, is super important. And when it's off balance, bad bacteria becomes dominant in the body. And when that happens, that bad bacteria, it crowds out the good, and the good bacteria is responsible for so many things. And the bad, they're not beneficial. They are parasitic. I'm not saying they're all parasites, but they're parasitic in the sense that they take from their host. They deplete. Especially, we all have candida and yeast in our body. That's part of a normal bio-ecosystem of the body. But this becomes very dominant very easily with over-the-counter medications, with high sugar foods. I mean, it's very easy for it to become dominant. And this is really the culprit, the biggest culprit, because the yeast becomes dominant. And we have all this good villi, this good healthy tissue on the inside of the gut lining, these good healthy bacteria. But when the yeast grows up and out and around inside the gut lining, it has the structure of a corkscrew. And so it goes into the gut lining and it holds on, and it takes hold. It takes root all inside the gut lining. And as it's doing that, as it's anchoring itself to the gut lining, this is what's causing the microscopic permeable holes in our child's gut lining. They could have already been developing this in utero, and certainly right after they're born, and on and on and on. I have other videos where I talk about certain things that we could have never pinned as warning signals that juvenile arthritis was on the horizon. But in hindsight, we're like, once you understand that this is the root issue of it, it's like, oh, okay, all of this is connected. All of this is connected. So we have the little permeable holes. We have now not just bacteria getting out into the bloodstream. We have fecal matter getting out into the bloodstream. We have food particles getting out into the bloodstream, parasites, all sorts of things. And this gets the attention of the immune system because these things do not belong in the bloodstream. And the body does the best it can to hide these toxins from the immune system. The fatty parts, the tissue tries to absorb, to draw these toxins in to keep it out of the view of the immune system. All these things are happening. The body's trying to get it out, flush these toxins out before the immune system detects them. And that whole process not only creates a body that has toxins all over in organs and tissue, behind the eye, in the brain, everywhere. These toxins are everywhere. But in the body, because there's toxins everywhere, the body's always trying to flush them out. And so our child's detox pathways become kind of backed up too. So now over a few years' time sometimes, or a long span of time, we end up with why is my child, so sick? And it's because not only are the toxins everywhere, they can't get out now, and they're circulating all over. So in our children's case, they develop what the medical community calls juvenile arthritis, because arthritis affects joints and tissue and bones. And so that's where our child's immune system found the toxins, which makes perfect sense because those are areas that predominantly grab toxins and hide them from the immune system. But this exact same activity will cause neurological issues. It will cause issues in other organs. It will cause skin issues. It's a matter of where the immune system finds the toxins and where the war takes place. In our children's case, it's in your child's case, in a particular joint or tissue, or it may be systemic. You may have skin issues. You may have other organ issues. There could be a lot going on. But the good news is that all of this, once we understand the real root cause, including the genetic component, all of this is ultimately reversible. Not in the sense that go on an AIP diet. No, that's managing. That's managing juvenile arthritis. Take all these supplements, this turmeric and anti-inflammatory and CBD and all that. That's managing. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about reversal. Now, our children's cells are constantly turning over and making new every day. They can only build with the material that we give it. So if we keep doing the same thing, we're going to keep getting the same result. That's fair, right? That's fair. So what we do inside the blueprint, very different. The way that we look at arthritis, we can just call it autoimmune disease, really. It's called the JIA blueprint because my daughter had juvenile arthritis, and this is my passion, but this is true for all autoimmune disease. What we see it differently. We don't see an overactive, confused immune system attacking perfectly healthy tissue. We don't, because we understand the root cause of what's going on. We understand that toxins have gotten in that tissue. There's absolutely nothing wrong with your child's immune system. It's found toxins in the joints doing exactly what it's supposed to do. And now we're in a position to support it and help it. Whether our grandma had arthritis or not, it doesn't matter, because in either case, if we don't repair it, if we don't actually repair it at the root level in our child, we will be passing on, your child will then pass on to their children a genetic code that has flipped on markers for autoimmune disease, in particular, an arthritic one, because that's all they have to give. But what we do inside the blueprint, yeah, we're sealing and healing the gut. That's step one, right? We need to stop the toxins from getting out. But with what we're doing and the body is rebuilding, and we're giving it new material to build with, and the cell turnover gets better and better and better every time. We fight underlying infections. We make sure there's no molds in the body. We fight the heavy metals that are possibly interfering with our child being able to heal, yeast overgrowth, the list goes on, parasites, all these things, detoxification, as well as completely rebuilding the internal gut wall and the gut lining, and making it new again. As we build and turn over, and there's no reason, there's nothing floating around anymore in the body. We're not passing down poor gut microbiome. We're not passing down anything that's abnormal, because we repair all of that in our child's body. We modulate their immune system. This is the study of epigenetics. So genetic markers are turned up for arthritis, and with the repair work that we do, they modulate, they go down. So this isn't a matter of you're going to pass on a benign JIA marker that can easily be flipped on in your child's future children. No, you're actually going to be passing on a completely modulated immune system, one that we were not able to pass on, and our parents were not able to pass on to us. And our poor kids, they're worse than we were, as we discussed before, and so on and so on. But we have this amazing opportunity right now to do this very important work of repairing the body at the root levels in all the areas that need repair, that need to be opened up again, that need to be healed, that need to get taken out of the body. And when we do all of that, we are actually working with that very manipulatable part of the DNA sequence, and we modulate it. And what epigenetics is showing is that we are guaranteeing for our kids that they won't be able to pass on autoimmune disease to their kids. And in all studies, it's showing that 6 to 8 generations down, it stays locked in like that, which is, I can't think of a more amazing gift. That is the best hereditary possession that we could possibly hand down to our children would be their health and the health of our future grandchildren and their children as well. I hope that this information turned a few lights on for you, maybe made you see autoimmune disease in a different light, maybe different than you have before. Maybe it rang really true for you, as it did for me and as it does for many of my clients. But at the very least, I really hope that it encouraged you, because this language could sometimes really intimidate us and make us feel powerless and say, oh, it's genetic. We're powerless. No, we're not powerless. We can absolutely reverse what's going on. We just need to take control. We can't just sit back and say, oh, let me throw something at it. Let me put something down there. No, there's repair needs to be done. A pill isn't going to do it. A supplement isn't going to do it. Red light therapy isn't going to do it. There's not going to be a thing. And, we're all of us moms, we're searching for the thing that's going to do it. And we try something and it works for a little bit and then it doesn't anymore. And then we try something and it works for a little bit. And then we get like, okay, and then what? We're back to the rheumatologist and they're like, see, I told you. And here we are. And now we're on that lifetime path of, I'll save that for another video. So I hope you're encouraged to know that this absolutely is reversible. Your child does not have to live with juvenile arthritis forever. And just because something is genetic does not mean that your child has to suffer at all. So thank you for taking time to listen to this video. If someone that you know or love has a child with juvenile arthritis, please, by all means, share this with them. It really helps my channel for more people who are looking for this information to find it. And it helps them so that way they can get on the road to healing. And the more that my channel gets recognized, then the easier it'll be for more people in the future to find this information. So it was really great talking to you. I look forward to sharing more information with you in another video.